Hello, it's John Heaton, and I know it's a big day with the release of the White Album Deluxe and everything. It hasn't come to Hungary yet anyway, and quite frankly I haven't had time to really concentrate on it because a week ago this came out. The latest in the Bootleg series from Bob Dylan. I have the CD as well, but not the deluxe set. Didn't see that. And this was fairly decently priced. It's a double vinyl. And just the latest glorious chapter in the glorious series that is the Bootleg series. And if you remember, it was about a year ago when this came out. And I didn't have the 4 vinyl box set. This is beautifully packaged. Didn't have that to show you when I reviewed this. And really happy to have this. I don't buy the vinyl of all these things, but for that Christian Trilogy live material and for this Blood on the Tracks, I think it's two of the most important periods of Dylan's career for me. So had to get it. Whether I get the box or not, I'm not sure. I did see, I'll come to Spotify in a minute, that had some stuff on it as well. So the inner sleeves, not a gatefold here, but you get some nice pictures. And quite interestingly, the label is a kind of mock-up of a test pressing, kind of mock test pressing dated 7th of Jan 1975, which is all part of the long and complicated history of this album. I'll show you the other pictures. Same label on the inside, and then nice use of red to go with the Blood on the Tracks album title, and then some great liner notes here. And the original liner notes by Mark Hamill are produced here. Pete Hamill, sorry. These are the same liner notes that come with the CD and with the box, presumably. So that's the vinyl. I don't have the CD to show you, but that's more or less the same. So of the original album, I picked up this copy. Obviously I've reviewed this album on my channel, and this was the original back cover, and then it was replaced by, this is my new vinyl copy, replaced by this back cover. And what's interesting about this back cover, it's very hard to read with the maroon colour. It's crediting all these musicians who played on the New York sessions, some of whom didn't even feature on the album too much because 5 of the tracks were re-recorded. So I'll come to that. In fact, I'll talk about it now. So I had a go last night in putting together what happened. Basically, there's 10 tracks on the album. 5 tracks are from the New York City sessions of 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th of September 1974. And then 5 tracks are from Minneapolis, 27th of December and 30th of December 1974. So what happened is all 10 tracks had been recorded in New York, and the album was ready to go, and it was actually pressed up, test pressing. And then Bob went home for Christmas and discussed it with his family and with his brother in particular, and thought that some tracks could be improved upon. So he went in to Minneapolis with some local musicians and redid 5 of the tracks. And so this album is a mixture. Not that you can tell tremendous difference in the feel. The material obviously is all written by the same man at the same period of his life. But if one knows the history, then it's quite interesting in spotting the differences. So the 5 tracks which were left on from the New York recordings were Simple Twist of Fate, You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome, Meet Me in the Morning, Lily, Rosemary, Jack of Hearts, Shelter from the Storm, and Buckets of Rain. And the 5 re-recorded, Tangled Up in Blue, Idiot Wind, You're a Big Girl Now, Lily, Rosemary, Jack of Hearts, and If You See Her, Say Hello. So the dates of when all these tracks were recorded on the final album are available on the internet, and the dates of what appears on this album, which is more or less like an alternate take, if you like, of what it perhaps might have sounded like with just the New York sessions, and that's what makes it fascinating. All the dates are available on when each track was recorded, and the deluxe box set, I've seen the details for that, and it's got every single New York track laid down from the start to the finish in chronological order, starting with the 16th September, ending with the 19th. And it's just, I mean, I'd love to have the box set. Whether I'll pick it up, I don't know at the moment. But so, what else can we say? New York Sessions, yeah, as I said, this original album credits Tony Brown, Buddy Cage on Tony Brown on bass, Buddy Cage on steel guitar, Paul Griffin on organ, and Eric Weisberg and Deliverance on, doesn't say what they're on, but I think they play guitar. But as it would turn out, some of those musicians didn't even feature on the finished album, because the band, as probably has happened more times than we care to admit in Bob's career, the band couldn't follow what Bob was playing and were either asked to leave or decided to leave. Apparently Bob had his guitar tuned in a strange way and wasn't sharing the chords openly, so people just had to stare at him and try and follow what key they were in and what chords they were changing, and some could keep up better than others. And so by the end of the first day, I think a lot of this band, who also included a guy called Richard Crooks on drums and Tony McFall on keyboards, had fallen by the wayside. But of the 5 tracks which are on here, the Tangled Up in Blue version is just Bob on acoustic and Tony Brown on bass, recorded on the last day of the September sessions. So stripped down without any of the other additional musicians. Lily Rosemary, Jack of Hearts, is actually a solo acoustic renditioning, which is fascinating to hear. It's a really, I mean, all the way through listening to this, it's just a fascinating companion piece to the finished album. I'm not saying it's any better, but it's certainly worthy, and it's certainly in the same league, and it's certainly very nearly as brilliant as the finished album. And it really is a fascinating listen. I've listened to it a few times already, and much as I would love to get the box to get all the alternate takes, I think what they've done here, putting together an alternate Blood on the Tracks as it would have sounded without the Minneapolis sessions, is a masterstroke. People complaining that this should have been a double or a triple album, but I quite like the way they've done it. So, you know, you can almost imagine this might have been the test pressing. This might have been the album as it was originally intended before Bob changed his mind. So if you see Her Say Hello on the original or on here, and I think on the original test pressing, again, just Bob on acoustic with Tony Brown on bass. And the two of them seem to have more chemistry playing together than Bob could achieve with the rest of the band for one reason or another. You're a Big Girl Now features Bob, Tony Brown and Paul Griffin on keyboards, Buddy Cage on steel guitar, although it's not very audible, the steel guitar. Idiot Wind is Bob and Tony. There's an organ overdub on one version, but not on here, because some stuff had already been previously released, and I'll come to that. Buckets of Rain, again, just Bob and Tony, guitar and bass. Shelter from the Storm, Bob and Tony Brown. Swimple Twist of Fate, Bob and Tony Brown. You're Going to Make Me Lonesome, Bob and Tony Brown. So the only exception is Meet Me in the Morning, which was recorded on the first day of the September sessions and features all the musicians, from what I can gather, including a very audible, superb steel guitar from Buddy Cage. So that's interesting that that's the only fully blown band version from the New York session that emerged. Now I just want to talk about a couple of other tracks which have been released already. There's a couple on here. There's a version of Tangle Up in Blue from the New York sessions. There's a version of Call Letter Blues, an early version of Meet Me in the Morning, and a New York version of Idiot Wind, which is the same as this one, but with the organ overdub, I think. And if you see Her Say Hello, again, another version, alternate version from the New York sessions. And then on Biograph, there was another alternate version of Tangled Up in Blue, and I thought Up to Me was on here somewhere, but I can't find it. Maybe it's on here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Up to Me has been released somewhere along the line, but I can't find it. Anyway, Up to Me is a great acoustic track. Could have easily been on the album, although as ever, what are you going to leave off an album like Blood on the Tracks? There's no real filler. I suppose the least favourite of mine would be Lily, Rosemary and Jack of Hearts, but it helps with the flow of the album because you don't want every song being dead slow. So songs like You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome and Rosemary pick the tempo up a little bit, which is sometimes needed perhaps. But anyway, Up to Me is a really great track to have on here. Minneapolis Sessions. Bob's brother suggested that they go in and use local musicians, and I hadn't heard of these people, but they're just all brilliant musicians. Chris Webber on guitar, Kevin Odegaard on keyboards, on guitar I think as well, Gray Inhofer on keyboards, Bill Berg on drums, and Pete Ostrushko on mandolin. And he just plays on the one track, If You See Her, Say Hello. Greg Inhofer and Bill Berg, keyboards and drums on all 5 tracks. And I think some of the others just feature on a couple. I think I forgot to mention Billy Peterson on bass, who plays bass on most of the tracks here. So one thing I would say about Minneapolis is I think they decided to record Tangled Up in Blue in a higher key, a slightly higher key I was reading, which made Bob have to reach for the notes, which I think is very effective, and he does so brilliantly. Not that this version is anything to be ashamed of, it's a masterpiece already, but I think it's fair to say the final version of here is, well, it's certainly my favourite. The words, as we've discussed, nothing more needs to be added. Among Dylan's finest of his entire career. Every verse full of startling imagery, heartfelt lyrics, great storytelling. It's Bob at his very best. Anyway, my previous review talked about the music. What else can we say? Idiot Wind is very much heavier on here and more and angrier. On here it's basically an acoustic number with a bit of bass, and it doesn't quite sound so vicious. And that's the one track which maybe I might prefer from the New York sessions to how they re-recorded it, but there's not much in it, and it depends what mood one's in. If one wants to hear the angry version, then it's there for all to hear, and you can also hear the live version on Hard Rain, which is a romp and quite a heavy version. There's also a version on YouTube from the 76 tour where he's belting out the lyrics, similar to the way he belted out the lyrics to Shelter from the Storm on that tour, and that's a brilliant version as well. So I don't necessarily prefer any particular version of Idiot Wind. I think they're all worthy, and I think this Bootleg Series 1 to 3 had a version as well. So of the third track, which was re-recorded, If You See Her Say Hello, I would say is an improvement over the New York sessions. I think it's gorgeous guitar playing, gorgeous mandolin, and just makes it even more special than it was. And this version on the Bootleg series is already pretty damn fine and very moving. Lily Rosemary is given a full band treatment on the final album, which contrasts quite nicely to this acoustic solo rendition, and I enjoy this solo rendition, but maybe it's because I haven't heard it before. It's a longish song, it's probably a bit over long, but it's really nice to have a companion piece of that solo version. And then the fifth song to be re-recorded was You're a Big Girl Now, and I think they do improve on that in Minneapolis versus New York, but there's not too much in it. It's a glorious song as presented here, with just a solo version with bass, I think it is. No, it's actually just solo. Recorded on the very first day of the New York sessions. So, a couple of things to add. On the song Up to Me has a really moving lyric, and which concludes with the line, and the harmonica around my neck. I blew it for you, free. No one else could play that tune. You knew it was up to me. It's just a brilliant lyric. And Lily Rosemary has a verse on this version which was omitted from the final album version. Lily's arms were locked around the man she I can't read my own writing, she dearly loved to touch. She forgot all about the man she couldn't stand who hounded her so much. I've missed you so, she said to him, and he felt she was sincere. But just beyond the door he felt jealousy and fear. Just another night in the life of the Jack of Hearts. So, very interesting to hear that. Very interesting to hear the alternate lyrics of a song you know well. And I can't say enough about this bootleg series. But this is the latest and probably won't be the final version, final release. I will get round to the White Album, obviously, but I had to focus on this to begin with. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.